I did say a little bit about the fact that we both had some kind of family thing here and there. So I'm aware that you lived on your own for quite some time, a long time, before you got married. And I also lived on my own for 9 years. And it's not because I wanted
it wasn't
on my
choice,
own. When you are living on your own and there is no family support, or you don't feel like you have enough family support, it's very difficult to even think that something good will come out of your life. So can you share a little bit about that? How long did you live on your own before you got married, and what are some of the challenges that you encountered as a single during that stage?
Oh, I think as you were asking me that question, my mind went straight to when I used to live in, I think it was Hidden Green.
Oh my God, memories.
My mind went straight there, and I remember one day just walking under the rain. I think I'd had enough. Things were tough. It was very, and I remember walking under the rain and listening to the Kirk Franklin song, Imagine Me. Right? Imagine me without pain. Imagine me without sorrows. Imagine me without all the burdens. Imagine me, not being on benefit. Imagine me not sharing a house with somebody, but not renting a room in a shared accommodation. Like literally, imagine me. And I remember just walking under the rain and just singing that song over and over and over and over and over again. So to answer your question, I got to this country in 2002. It was 2 years later. So that was 2006. So it was quite a long time. I woke up one day, packed my bags, unbeknown to anyone.
Wow.
Waited till it was dark, called a taxi, and put everything in the taxi and left.
So you were living with your family then? I
was living with my family. My two younger siblings at the time, I remember them just kind of watching me, just packing my stuff. And I couldn't really explain to them why. But all I knew was that I wanted to be safe. I needed to feel safe, and I did not feel safe. But I think more so because I felt like there was going to be a situation happening where either I was going to be dead or I would be in prison.
Right.
So to avoid that, I just thought the best route is get out. So I got out. And I lived on my own since. I went from living with someone for a while, and then I got my own hostel. Oh, and I remember having this big breakdown in Victoria Street because I went to this hostel where the nuns were, and they were supposed to give me a place, but then when they opened my passport had expired. Oh. And they said, we can't take you. And I just broke down. But anyways, fast forward. I moved around quite a lot, and there was a time I started counting how many places I lived in. In a period that counting why. In a space of, I think, 5-6 years. I think I lived in 10 places. Some of them okay, some of them not so great.
I'm counting mine now.
So yeah, it was tough. It was lonely. It was difficult. And what it did for me was it isolated me. I shut out from the world. I shut out from my siblings. I shut out from family. I literally just caved in. After we met, I think I then went into this other hiding season, which is where our relationship kind of drifted off. Yeah. But it was tough. It was tough. I found myself not wanting to do anything. The only thing I was doing was work. And when I came home, it wasn't home, so it was challenging.
So I won't assume that the family house you were in was not your mom and your dad's house.
No.
Okay. So you were living with other family members.
Yes.
And you were the oldest one among the siblings.
Yeah.
And you packed your things, left a place you feel was unsafe for you, but you never thought that what will happen to my younger siblings?
I didn't. And that is because of how I grew up.
Okay.
When I was living back home, I was raised by my grandfather and my grandmother.
Okay.
I only had one sibling living with me, which was a brother. But we were raised in a way where each for themselves.
Right.
My grandfather was kind of like my protective factor.
Okay.
My grandmother was my brother's protective factor. So I still see it now. It was like there was this division. So me and my grandfather would be standing on one end of the room. So there was a living room with two rooms. Me and my grandfather would stand at one end of the room, and my grandmother and my brother would stand at the other end. And there would be arguments going on. And everybody took sides. So when I had to live with my siblings here, I didn't know what my role as an older sibling was.
Right.
I never knew that. And I never thought about it.
Yeah.
So when I was leaving, I just left because I thought they were in a better place, that they would be okay. And so even me and one of my sisters, we had to rebuild our relationship. And to be honest with you, that's more because of her.
Okay.
If it was left on me alone, I wouldn't have, because I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So it was only when she married, started having kids, that she would invite me over.
Okay.
And it was then I started thinking about my role as a sibling.
Okay.
So now I'm in that position where when they call, I play that role. I do things to kind of support a thing. But as of that time, I didn't have a clue what it meant to be an older sister. Yeah.
And I'm sure there are many people in that situation right now because of family background. They are not used to a certain way of things. And I think now, looking at what you've said, it's probably a big factor in my life. Because I also, growing up, a lot of us, and then I had a family member who is a guardian, take me in, and all of that. And I can see that even with my other siblings, we don't have that kind of connection. And where I have tried to make efforts, I can see that it's just not working. So at the moment, I've got one family member that I can say that, we talk on a regular basis. And bearing in mind I'm the last baby. So it's very difficult when you are the last baby and the rest of the family members who they are the oldest one. There's a level of respect that they expect from you. You can't really connect the way you want to connect and that kind of thing. So it's difficult. Maybe that's why we connected when we met, because we are very similar stories. And I'm sure that there are many people in that situation where you don't really have that family connection going on, or you don't feel like you have that family relationship, or even you are trying to make an attempt to make that work, but it's just not working. It can be a difficult one.
It is.
It can be a difficult one.
It's a tough one. I mean, guilt took over me for years. I felt so guilty because there were times where my siblings called on me and I just shut the door because, again, I struggled with, how do I do this? And so when we reconnected, it took a lot, because I was still carrying that guilt that, I should have been there for them. Even when they came back, there was a time they came back into my life, I should have been there for them. But then the only thing I knew how to do at that time was spend. So there was a particular stage in my life where I was working, I was earning a lot of money, I didn't really know about budgeting and saving and all of that stuff.
I remember we helped ourselves a lot. Joyce, Pastor Joyce would call, please, I need this amount of money. And I'll send her, I said, Joyce, I need this amount of money. So we used to depend on each other a lot.
Exactly.
Borrowing from each other.
Until now we've learned the reason for not borrowing. But so it's been a journey. So I compensated by then spending on them. So I would take some of my younger siblings just go to the shop, say choose whatever you like. But that was not enough. You know, so I had to learn again and again. I mean, give honor to whom honor is due. My sister right after me, she has been instrumental when it comes to bringing the family together, because I think if she didn't do that, I think we all still would have been scattered.
Wow. So what advice would you give to anybody that is in that place right now where they feel like all their efforts to bring the family together is failing, or their effort to connect to the family is just not working, they feel alone, lonely?
Just, I think, talk to God, committed to God. One of the things I noticed with my sister is she relies so much on God, she depends so much on God, and even if it's a risk, she does not mind taking that risk because she's doing it with God. She's doing it from a place that this is what it's meant to be. This is how God will want it to be. So rely on God and let Him lead you as to what steps He wants you to take. So she's been very patient with me. I mean,
She's younger than me.
And she's younger than me. There was a time when I moved to Ghana for 6 months, came back in the UK, didn't have a place to stay. She and her husband took us in. They took us in, I think, probably 3-4 months.
When you say took us in, you mean?
We went to live with them.
You and your husband?
Me, my husband, and our son.
Wow.
Went to live with them. At that time, it was the two of them, her and her husband, and 2 boys. And they only had a 2-bedroom.
Wow.
But they gave us a room.
Wow.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that time, our relationship...
The husband is a Ghanaian,
by the way, yeah. At that time, our relationship was not even that strong yet. But they took us in. Never asked us for anything.
Wow.
Not one single time. I was the one who felt so uncomfortable that I was rushing to find a place, and eventually I was just like, okay, that's it. Right? But and that's why I'm saying that it's important that you understand, and I think she knows that God has given her that grace to mend families.
Right.
Because she would be the one who would travel all over the world to go and see other family members.
Wow.
She will remember everybody's birthday. Wow. She will remind you, oh, this person's birthday. Something is happening, somebody's birthday. She'll say, oh, let's do something this for that person. Let's do something. So she has the grace for it. And so I've come to respect the grace on her, not take advantage of it, but respect the grace on her, and also support where I can. So I remember when we started building our relationship, when they come over to my house, because I had OCD when it comes to cleaning, you know, the kids, they'll be playing, everybody will be jumping around, and I'm just like, don't jump, you will fall. Don't do this. Don't touch the walls. Don't. And it was so uncomfortable after a while. But she allowed me the space because she knew that she's going through it. And she would wait until the right time, and she would sit me down and say, you know, you're making us feel really uncomfortable. Right? And then because of how she would approach it, would make me now think. So now they can come to my house, they can be breaking down. And I'm just sitting there just going, okay, you know, because there was somebody who took the time. And sometimes it's not easy. And I always say this to people, realize that the capacity you have is not the same that the other person has. God has given you a grace for something. It's not the same grace that somebody else has. So in order for you to shift somebody's narrative from a negative place to a positive place, you have to understand that there are different capacities. And how you approach it is important in how that is going to shift. So that's always key.
Wow. Wow. Know the capacity that you have, know the grace God has placed on you, and just play that part that you are meant to play.
And do it. Don't say, oh, why should it be me? We should
why are they not responding the way I want them to? Because you can give up in that role.
Why should it be me? If not you, who? Because God has given you the grace for that. You know, so like even with this same sister, I call her a midwife as well, because when everybody has a baby, she's the one that knows everything to do.
Wow.
And I cherish that about her, and I leave that to her.
Yeah.
But also there's a grace that I carry, that my other siblings carry, and she also respects all of those graces upon our lives. So it's about knowing where your strength is, pulling the other person up. You know, like the Bible says that we should join our faith together. If somebody has less, join hands with them, help them to come up. And that's how we should always think about it.
Yeah. Wow. Inspiring. I'm sure you are inspired already. Very, very inspiring. Family is very sensitive.
Yes.
Very, very, very sensitive. And I don't wish anybody to be in a difficult family situation, because it's not easy to go through it.
Yeah.
But if you are there right now, just know that you are not alone. There are many people in that situation.
Yes.
Just do your best to do what is right.
And it can get better.
Yeah.
And I think I must put a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Some family members may not need to be in your life.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you've tried, and if God is also saying leave it alone, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because if you have people in your life that when you're setting the boundaries, they don't respect those boundaries, then they don't need to be in your life.
Yeah.
And you might want to love them from afar.
Exactly.
And it's okay, love them from afar.
Yeah.
There are many family members I have, I love them from afar. I respect them, I honor them, but they won't be in my space. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you always also have to know the difference. So don't go just one enforcing for everybody to be in your space. No.
Yeah.
If it works, it works.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But also learn that there are boundaries that needs to be in place. And if at all people, anybody, whether friends, family, even work colleagues, if they do not respect your boundaries, it's okay to deal with them from afar.
Yeah. Very important. Learn to love from afar. If it's not working, just let God deal with it. Whilst you have your peace of mind, because your mental health is very important.
Very.
So that's where we come to the mental health aspect. How did you deal with your mental health during your singleness stage?